this session is designed to be specific to the Access Grants opportunity. I will be getting into a little bit about what that is, what its purpose is, and how it works. I will also start by saying that the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving is a community foundation for the greater Hartford area. For those who are totally new to us, we serve the 29 town area that includes Hartford and many surrounding towns. There is a map on our website that lists all of those towns that we serve. Excuse me for a second. As a community foundation, we are really designed to support the residents of Greater Hartford. We have been here for almost 100 years. We don't intend to leave. And so we really hope to partner with all of you now and forever. There's a lot more general information about the Hartford Foundation and how we work and our history and some of our processes on the website. And I would encourage folks to explore that if you have other questions about who we are and why we exist. And again, I would encourage anyone who has specific questions about the Hartford Foundation that don't relate to Access Grants to definitely plan to reach out individually and schedule some time with our staff. So that's sort of my introductory comments. And if there are general questions about the Hartford Foundation, I'm happy to answer those as well at the end, and that's fine. So what are our Access Grants opportunities specifically? Oops. Oh, I didn't know that worked that way. Okay, we'll start there. So last year in 2021, we created our Access Grants opportunity as a way to support those nonprofits and community groups in our community that have ideas, new approaches, or not so new approaches that contribute to dismantling systemic racism in Greater Hartford, and also contribute to advancing more equitable economic and social mobility among Greater Hartford residents. Through the Access Grants opportunities, we're really looking to put some resources towards our broad strategic objective, which I've just described, and really find those organizations that are working towards this end that need additional resources to support their work. As I mentioned, we love new ideas. We also like ideas that have been around for a while and just haven't been properly resourced. So this is an opportunity for nonprofits to reach out. You can apply directly through our website and basically let us know, we're doing some work. We believe we can contribute to that strategic objective, and we'd like to put our idea across. Many of you may be aware that we have 5 strategic priority areas, which I will be mentioning here. I'm going to sort of list them. We certainly encourage applications in any of those 5 areas, but we also support requests. We consider requests that fall outside of those 5 areas that perhaps are cross-cutting or a whole new approach that don't fall into one of those 5 areas, but still could contribute to that strategic objective that I mentioned. We also consider requests that might support the overall capacity, organizational capacity of an organization whose mission fits or aligns with dismantling structural racism and advancing more equitable economic and social mobility. So those 5 strategic priority areas that I mentioned, and I'm going to go through them in alphabetical order. They are all on our website. You can get additional detail there, but I just want to kind of mention them to give people a sense of our current priorities. We support arts-related work that is designed to create a more equitable and inclusive arts sector in Greater Hartford. We also support work that advances basic human needs, particularly around increased food security, a reduction in homelessness, and greater access to healthcare of all kinds, physical and behavioral. We have an area of work focused on increasing civic and resident engagement. We have a 4th area that is designed to create more employment opportunities for Black and Latinx residents of Greater Hartford. And that particular area of work also supports the sort of building blocks that lead to greater employment opportunities, including the completion of education. And then our last area is higher opportunity neighborhoods, which is really designed to increase the opportunities available to Hartford residents in their neighborhoods, and also increase choice for Hartford residents who might choose to live outside of Hartford by focusing on increased access to affordable housing in other towns within our 29 town area. So those are the 5 outcome teams that we currently have, and much of our work is organized across those 5 areas. But as I mentioned, the Access Grants opportunity is more open than that. If you can make a case that something that your organization is doing or your organization's mission overall contributes to dismantling structural racism and advancing more equitable economic and social mobility, we would love to hear about it, and we would love to consider providing resources to support it. I want to mention 2 more things while we're still on this slide. In terms of eligibility for this particular opportunity, there is a brief eligibility quiz at the start of the application, and it essentially asks, I think, 3 things. And if it's 4, I apologize, but it's along these lines. 1 is making sure that you are either a 501c3 nonprofit organization, or you have a fiscal sponsor that is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're very happy to support a group that does not have its own 501c3, but we do need to provide the grant to a 501c3. If you have specific questions about that, that would be a great thing to discuss one-on-one with us so that we can help you identify resources if you are not already a 501c3. We do require that you're serving Greater Hartford, that the majority of your efforts would benefit Greater Hartford residents. If you are doing work statewide, that's fine too, but we can only support a portion of those activities because our mandate is restricted to Greater Hartford. And then the other area that I will just mention is that we do ask that nonprofits have been active for at least a year. And by active, I forget exactly what the language is, but we're really asking that you have done some kind of activity that has implemented something for a year. It does not need to be one single consecutive year. It does not need to be last year. It could be, a summer program, for example, that has happened over 2 or 3 different summers, which is probably a bad example because we do have a separate RFP process specifically for summer programs. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you've had some track record of providing some services or implementing some programs, but you've done it seasonally over a couple of years, that's totally fine. If you had to have a hiatus in your services during COVID, for example, but prior to that, you were active in implementing, that's totally fine too. But we do want to see some sort of track record that you have done something in the community. The last thing I want to say while we're on this slide is that we have created a rubric that we use to assess the applications that come in through access grants. We do that so that we are sure that we're being consistent, but we've also made that rubric available on our website, and you'll see a link at the end of where to find that. And it really shows you exactly what we're looking for. And we've done that so that we can be transparent, so you know what's informing our decisions, but also so that you have a chance before you complete the application to see if what you would be requesting or how you work fits with what we are looking for in this opportunity. We really value everyone's time, and we don't want you to be spending time on this if it's not the right fit for you. There may be other opportunities at the Hartford Foundation that may be a better fit, or perhaps, you're serving a different county and it's really just not a fit at all. We really want to make sure that you're able to make that informed decision right up front and decide for yourself if this is the right match for your work. So we really encourage folks, look at that rubric, read through it, see how we are going to be assessing your application and decide if this is the right fit. If you think it's not the right fit, but you think that generally speaking, the Hartford Foundation could be a resource for your work, again, please reach out, schedule a conversation, and we can help you navigate our other opportunities. Okay, I'm gonna, let me just, okay. I will say, if you have specific questions that are popping up for you right now, again, we are gonna do questions once I'm done, and there's only 2 more slides. But if you want to start recording them in the chat, we will be looking at the chat, and so it's fine if you start populating that already, because I know sometimes folks may have a question and you're afraid you're going to forget it, so you can document it in the chat. So a little bit more about access grants, the specifics of it. We invite requests of up to $50,000 over a period of a year. Not all grants that we have awarded have been for $50,000. We've certainly made smaller ones, but that is the maximum amount. And we really encourage nonprofits to think about the level of resources they might need to properly support their work. We definitely don't want you to ask for $50,000 if what you really need is $100,000. If what you really need is $100,000, this may not be the right opportunity for your work. We also don't want you to ask for $50,000 if what you really need is $10,000. And if you're not sure how to consider what you might need to reasonably support your work, again, we're happy to discuss it with you. I want to mention something about the 1 year. Many of you may be thinking, wow, dismantling structural racism is certainly going to take a lot longer than a year. Yep, it is. Totally agree with you there. This opportunity is really designed to be a door into the Hartford Foundation. We wanted to create an opportunity where folks could consider the opportunity, make their own decision, and automatically apply if they think it's a good fit. Once we've seen the application and considered it, if we agree to support it because we agree it's a good match for this particular opportunity, we then have committed to supporting that for 1 year and then considering further support beyond the first year as makes most sense for that particular activity or organizational mission, whether that after the first year is multi-year support or another 1 year grant, if it's at a different level or the same level. That is something that we will consider after the first year or during the first year, quite frankly. So yes, it is just 1 year for a start, but it is also a door into the Hartford Foundation. And then we would look to integrate that into our planning for the future if needed. If it's a one-off thing that doesn't need to be integrated, that's fine too, right? But for this opportunity, it is 1 year. We do award 2 rounds of access grants each year. We did that last year for the first time because that was the first time we were doing it. So across the 2 rounds last year, we awarded a total of 33 grants. Last year, the timing was a little bit different. I think our first set of grants was awarded in July and the second set in October. This year, again, we are doing 2 rounds. The first round of grants has already been awarded in April. We awarded 8 grants, and we are now considering the second round. The application process is actually always open and rolling, so folks can go in at any time and work on their application. But to be considered for the second round, you must complete and submit your application by August 5th. If you do not complete and submit your application by August 5th, the process will close out and you will need to wait until 2023. We will be looking at the status of applications, a couple of days before August 5th, and we will decide if we need to kind of remind organizations that the deadline is coming up if there are a number in draft status. But we definitely hope that people take note of August 5th. It's really important for us to be consistent with everyone. And so it's challenging to give extensions because that really isn't fair to some who don't think to ask for an extension. So please remember August 5th. Organizations that applied in the first round and did not get a grant through that round have been held over. And if there's anyone in this Zoom room for whom this applies, you should have received an email letting you know, and those applications will be considered again in the second round. But if you didn't apply in the first round, that's 100% fine, and you can apply now and you will be considered as part of that. Any organization that does not receive a grant in the second round, and those awards will be announced in October, we will close out all of those applications and let folks know, and you are welcome to reapply in 2023, but that will require you to start a new application. And that is really because there's a number of reasons. One, we think many things may change between August of this year and next year. But also each year, and we've only done this so far, this is just our second year, but we are learning so much as we go. And, for example, last year, after we went through the whole process, we recognized that some of the questions we asked in our application were not clear, for example. We got some feedback from applicants. We also recognized that some of the things in our rubric maybe weren't totally clear. So after last year, we did take that learning from the community and we adapted our application and we adapted our rubric. And that's really why we do need to close them out at the end of each year so that we can take that moment to learn and make adaptations and then really relaunch, hopefully in a way that works better for our partners. And so carrying over the applications from one year to the next really doesn't work because we can't compare two different applications, one that was started the previous year. So if that's a challenge for folks or they need some help with that, there are ways that we can retain the information for you and give it to you so that you can reuse it if that's helpful. I mean, there's different ways we can explore to work on that if that would be helpful, but we do need to close them out at the end of the year. For anyone who might be on this call that may have received an Access grant last year in 2021, if you would like continued support for that particular effort, and I say effort because it could be your overall mission, it could be a particular project. If you want continued support for something that was funded by a 2021 Access grant, please do not apply through the Access grants application. Please reach out to the officer that is assigned to your grant and let them know that you would like to discuss continuation funding. If you don't know who your officer is, please feel free to reach out, and there will be an email address in the next slide to find out, and we'll let you know. You can reach out to me or you can reach out to the web address in the next slide. The Access Grant portal, as I mentioned, is designed to be a door in, and we are looking for those, whether they're new to us or new to you or new to the community. It could be something that's been ongoing for a long time, but we have not funded it yet. That is what the Access Grants door is for. So again, if you already have funding from us to do it and you're looking for continuation funding, please reach out to your officer to discuss that. One more thing, I'm just looking at my notes. One more thing I wanted to mention on this slide. If you are interested in seeing what we have funded so far through the Access Grants process, if you go to the Access Grants webpage, scroll to the bottom, we have posted links to each of the press releases that we did for each of the rounds of Access Grants. So please click on those and you will see a full list for each. I think there's 2 different press releases, one for all of last year, and maybe 3, one for each round we've done so far. You can click on those, you'll see a short description of what we funded, and this may be helpful for giving you a sense of what we are looking for through this process. So we added those recently. That's something new because we are hearing from folks that getting a sense of what we are funding would be helpful. So please feel free to check that out. Okay, now it's not automatically advancing. There we go. So this is my last slide. These are helpful links. So please feel free to go to our Access Grants page. From that page, you will see all the basic information that I've essentially shared with you right now, as well as a link to our rubric, which we also provided the direct link here. And there's a link to directly start applying. You don't have to ask us first. You don't have to go through what some are familiar, our regular process of sort of inviting you to apply. You just click on the application and you get started. If you have any technical issues while you're doing that, we can certainly connect you to a staff member who can help you with that. So that Access Grants page, it has the links to the lists of grants we've made in the past. It has a link to the rubric. It has all of the dates that I've shared with you in terms of deadlines. It provides the purpose of this that I've also shared in this. Hopefully that is there. And if there's something you're not seeing there that you think would be helpful, please tell us, because we'll both answer your question and we'll consider making a change to the webpage, because something that's confusing for you may be confusing to others as well. And we may not see that because we're creating it out of our own heads and we don't have everybody's perspective. So we really appreciate getting that feedback. And then I just want to briefly share some other opportunities. So some of you may say, this doesn't really feel like what I was looking for. This isn't the right opportunity for me. We do have a web page that's linked there, which is current grant opportunities. And that is where we post other open opportunities, open requests for proposals that may be available. At this time, you'll see there's a link to Access Grants because that is open and rolling. There's also a link to apply for funding through our small agencies program, because that is also something that is open and rolling. And that is a specific program for organizations that have an annual budget of $300,000 or less. So if that's something that might be of interest, you can find out more information on our current grant opportunities page. Also on that page, there is a place you can go to sign up to receive notifications whenever there is a new opportunity posted on that page. So you will be among the first to know. I'm personally signed up because I love to be reminded of what we are posting and knowing that it's gone out to the community so that I can also see what anyone else might be seeing. So please feel free to sign up, and then you'll just automatically be included, and you can judge for yourself what might be a good fit for the work that you're doing and that your nonprofit is doing. And then I've also, and let me just mention, I do know that there are one other upcoming opportunity that will be coming up. I believe it is in August, and that will be for the second round of grants for emergency assistance for basic human needs. We actually just recently, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, can't remember, closed out the first round of applications for emergency assistance. We got a lot of responses. And I think it's indicative of the need in the community, and we really appreciate learning from our partners where the greatest need is. There's a lot of applications, so we are reviewing those. And I believe we are scheduled to announce awards through that in June. And then we will be reopening it in August to receive applications for the second round. And then finally, there is a link here for our nonprofit support program, which provides technical assistance, webinars, trainings, all kinds of support, organizational assessments, really all designed to look at the capacity of your organization. So not specific project work or program work, but really looking at your leadership, your board structure, your financial management, your technology needs, your internal DEI efforts, anything that is really designed to strengthen your organization as a whole. That is the place to go. There are a number of rolling opportunities there. I will flag one particular thing that I'm aware of that's coming up. We support a series of trainings that are provided through the Hartford Public Library. There's a session coming up on June 22nd. It is virtual over Zoom. It's free, and it is on nonprofit fiscal sponsorship. It's entitled Friends with Benefits for Nonprofits, because we're a little bit sassy over here. And so we like to make our titles catchy. I would encourage you to sign up for that if you're interested in how you might work with a fiscal sponsor. If you do not have your own 501c3, that will be led by Priya Morgenstern of Pro Bono Partnerships. She's a real live lawyer and she knows all kinds of stuff that is really great and helpful. And she can really answer a lot of questions about that specifically. So I think we can provide the direct link for that in the chat, but you can also find it. Ooh, look at that, Tara already did, that's great. So please, if you are interested in that, please feel free to sign up for that. And then finally, the last thing I'm gonna say, and you're probably all sick of hearing my voice, is if you have any questions, please send an email. I mean, you can ask them now, right? But if you have individual questions or you would like your own time, an hour with one foundation staff member, please send an email to applications@hfpg.org and request a meeting. There's so many things that are individual to each specific nonprofit, and I know we will not be able to cover them all today in this session, but we definitely want to make sure that you have time for those specific questions. So applications@hfpg.org. I believe we will be circulating these 3 slides in case there's anything useful here to all of you who are signed up afterwards. So even if you forget to jot this down, we are going to be sharing it with you. And that is really a great first step to having a conversation more in depth about your specific nonprofit or your specific group and its needs for support. So those are all of my planned remarks. Now we get into the unplanned. I am going to stop sharing. And I am also being reminded that in addition to sharing the slides, we will also be sharing a recording. So if you enjoyed listening to this once, imagine how much fun it will be the second time. Or you can share it with a friend who didn't make it. So please know that there's so many ways to learn more. So I'm going to scroll back up here in my little chat. Does the foundation have any grant writers they could recommend? I'm not specifically going to name any. We do have a database of consultants that is available through our nonprofit support programs page. And there you can filter by specific skill sets. And there are grant writers included in that database. I will also mention our nonprofit support program. One of the offerings they have is fund development. And so if you're really interested in kind of having a deeper engagement around how you can develop a plan for fundraising and things like that, and possibly get some consulting support for that, you might consider looking at, again, the nonprofit support programs page to look into what support they might be able to provide for that. I see both Tara and Michaela have been providing some great links in the chat. Thank you. Yes, the recording will be available. I'm scrolling through, so apologies for my droning on. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to say you don't have to write your questions in the chat. You can also unmute and speak out loud. I'm going to mention something that my colleague Alyssa has written in the chat, which says we also have a volunteer matching program that can help support your efforts by, for example, if you're looking for a grant writer, we might be able to match you up with someone who is offered to volunteer their time and do that for you pro bono. That particular program is called Catch a Fire, and that is also managed by our nonprofit support program. So again, that same web link that we've provided, you can find information about Catch a Fire there as well. Thank you, Alyssa. It's a great reminder. So I'm pausing.
So if you don't mind, first, we at Keep the Promise Coalition have been awarded a grant from Hartford Foundation, and it was for the Catalyst grant. So we're very grateful and thankful. And in case you guys couldn't see, my mouth was wide open when you were telling us of all of the other amazing things you offer, because we're very small. We are just a 2-person office, and I am only part-time. So, and our board is more of a steering committee than a board. So what the services and the possible other plethora of things you just offered is fantastic, and I'm in shock. I mean, we've gone over the website and we've seen a lot of these things, but never to the depth that I thought you would offer support. We have taken a lot of the trainings through the Hartford Public Library, which were terrific. But helping with a grant writer and helping with funds and fundraising, oh my God, you just spoke little angels sang, you know. So, but one of the questions I was going to ask is, I think it's okay, but I just wanted to verify that we can apply for different grants. So in other words, we can ask you to apply for, say, the nonprofit portion, and also for helping us to perhaps bring in another office person or something like that. So in the different categories, that is acceptable, correct?
Yes. I would say in general, we actually strongly encourage folks who might be getting what we sort of call a regular grant or a project grant for particular program work to actually consider coupling that with support through our nonprofit support program. I think they're very complementary, and having that kind of, you know, if we think it's the program work you're doing is important to the community, we would certainly like to make sure that you're as strong as you can possibly be. I will say, as a tiny caveat to that, it's not against that actually, it's just additional information. Through some of our RFP processes, we do, you know, we generally post those rubrics, and oftentimes we do prioritize organizations who do not already have kind of similar or related or general program support. And that is really to create space for new organizations and to be really equitable in the way we are supporting organizations. That being said, if we get an amazing proposal for something new and we're already supporting the organization to do something else, but we think it's going to have a great impact in the community, that is why I say we prioritize organizations, but we consider these requests. So hopefully by reviewing those rubrics, you'll see how we sort of approach that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Megan. I appreciate all of the information. Thank you again.
Sure, my pleasure. I would encourage anyone else who has a question, just as Holly has done, please feel free to speak up. Or if you're shy, feel free to write in the chat. And if no one has additional questions, I'll give it a couple minutes. We can all sit in silence and, oh, go ahead.
Yes, I apologize. I wanted to ask a question, but I'm almost embarrassed to ask it because a phone call came in and you might have answered it already. Someone had raised the question regarding, do you have recommendations for grant writers? And I was interested in hearing that response, and I'm sorry if I'm having it repeated.
Celeste, don't ever feel embarrassed to ask a question. There's so much going on in the world that at any moment, any one of us can be distracted. So as you might have seen at the beginning, I had to run to my window and come back. So, you know, whatever, we all got stuff going on. That's a great question. And I'm going to repeat my response because I think it bears repeating. We have, I'd say 3 things I can offer on this. We have a database of consultants that is available through our nonprofit support program. And through that, you can filter to look for particular skills. So while we don't specifically recommend one person over another, we can, you know, through that database, you can find consultants who work in grant writing. That's 1. 2, we have a program called Catch a Fire, where we provide support funding to Catch a Fire that helps us to match nonprofits with volunteers. Now, that is a particular program that's also managed through our nonprofit support program. And I offer that as something to say, some of the volunteers may be grant writers. And so if that's something that might be helpful to your organization, you could reach out again to our nonprofit support program and see if you can be included in the organizations being served through Catch a Fire. And then you could look into getting matched up. You might also find that they have, there's a volunteer offering translation services and you want to translate part of your website, or there's a volunteer, I don't know, I'm making this up, I have no idea, but I think there's a range of different volunteers that are posted on that website. And it's mostly all sort of virtual, so they could be anywhere in the world or in the United States or wherever. And then finally, the third thing I mentioned is, again, our nonprofit support program does have a technical assistance grant that is, potentially available, you would have to apply for, that could offer you some support in fund development. So that's sort of a deeper engagement where you might say, we're really looking to think about a more sustainable fundraising strategy. And we would like a consultant to help us think that through and to give us some pointers on how to get started in implementing it. So this is, again, something you could ask the nonprofit support program about, and they might be able to let you know when that might be open for applications. I don't have the details of that right now, but that's a sort of third option.
Thank you very much.
Sure. I'm giving us this moment to pause and reflect, see if there are additional questions. I can't imagine I was that comprehensive that everything's been answered, but maybe I've gotten people thinking that they would like to reach out and schedule their own conversation with their own individual questions. And if so, that's great too. So no pressure. Okay, Eric has his hand up. Go ahead, Eric.
Can you hear me now?
Eric, I can hear you. Congratulations.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you. My question was, could you post the link again for Catch a Fire in the chat?
That's a great question. And I would ask if perhaps one of my colleagues could, I'm not sure if there's a direct link from the nonprofit support program's main page. If one of my colleagues is able to find that and post that, that would be great. It may be that you need to go to the nonprofit. Oh, there it is. Tara's on it. Thank you. So
Thank you
in
very
the chat,
much.
we have it.
Thank you very much.
I feel like we're coming off as a well-oiled machine here. I love this. Thanks, colleagues. Sure. So Angela's asking if I can review the annual budget maximum for the Access Grant opportunity and or restrictions for multiple Hartford Foundation grants. So the annual budget maximum in terms of the amount of the request to the Hartford Foundation is $50,000 per year. You could be asking for a portion of a project budget or organizational budget that is larger, but the maximum grant size for access grants is $50,000. There is no maximum for the overall annual budget of a particular organization. We will consider requests from really organizations of any size with any size budget. Angela may be recalling that I mentioned that for our small agencies program, that is a specific program for organizations with an annual budget of $300,000 or less. I will say if you are what we consider a small agency, you are also welcome to apply through the access grants for your programmatic work. So that's not a restriction there. And organizations are welcome to apply for multiple different opportunities at the Hartford Foundation simultaneously, even if you already have an open and active grant. In fact, we encourage organizations where we have recognized the importance of your work in the community, your programmatic work, and how you're serving Greater Hartford residents, to also look into getting capacity building supports for your organization through our nonprofit support program. And I did mention, though, in some cases, and really many cases, for if you have an existing grant, either for sort of general operating support, core support, or programmatic support, that if you're coming in for another grant for programmatic support, in some cases, we do prioritize organizations that do not already have an existing open and active grant. So hopefully that fully answers that question. Darlene has asked, could you please repeat the 5 focus areas, understanding that of course it is not exclusive as long as an applicant makes a case? Yes, I certainly can. I will repeat them, and while I'm repeating them, I might ask if one of my colleagues can find the direct link to our webpage where we list, I think it's our strategic commitment page, where we also list these out so that there it is. Look at that, Tara, thank you. So they are arts related, which is increasing equity and inclusion in the arts sector. There's our basic human needs efforts, which are designed to support food security, reduce homelessness, and increase access to healthcare. There's also our civic and resident engagement, which is designed to increase resident engagement, civic engagement. It also supports community organizing efforts with a preference for supporting those efforts by populations that have been traditionally marginalized and have not had access to decision-making opportunities. We also have our employment opportunities efforts, which is really designed to increase employment opportunities for Black and Latinx residents, particularly those with significant barriers to employment. And then the last is our higher opportunity neighborhoods effort, which is designed to increase opportunities in Hartford neighborhoods. And through this particular effort, you can see some examples on the website, but we do support things like increasing access to quality, affordable housing, both in Hartford and outside of Hartford, if that is the choice that Hartford residents make. And also supporting other efforts that increase social cohesion. So sense of community, maybe another way of putting it, in Hartford neighborhoods, such as beautification grants or other grants that might activate certain spaces in Hartford. So that kind of falls into that area. So hopefully that answers your question, Darlene, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that again, because I love talking about our priority areas. As I'm pausing to see if there are any additional questions, I might encourage any of my colleagues who feel that I've missed something or not provided accurate or full answers to please feel free to unmute yourself at any time and add some additional info.
Hi, I'm Tara Sunday. I just wanted to say very quickly that I always welcome phone calls or emails. So while we did list the applications at hfpg.org email, you can always reach out to me directly, even if it's just to hop on the line really quickly and just get a question out of the way or whatever. So whatever you're comfortable with, but you know, I just wanted to let you know I'm always here to have a conversation. I feel like I recognize a lot of people here, and I'm so glad that there's new people as well. So that's all. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Tara. And what some people didn't know is if you write to applications at hfpg.org, it actually goes to Tara. That's our sneaky system. So you can either write to her direct email or you can write there. But she's happy to receive your email either way. So thank you, Tara. Tracy has asked when the recording will be available. I believe it typically takes us maybe a day to get that out. We may take a minute just to make sure that if there's any additional questions and to pull together the email addresses that have registered. I think Zoom takes a little bit of time to get it to us, but it should be, I mean, I would say, you know, before the weekend, you'll probably see that. Does that sound right, Tara? Yeah. Okay. She's nodding. Good. Kind of curious how long we can all sit in comfortable silence. It's kind of a game I like to play on Zoom.
I am not good at that. I have to tell you, not good at it.
And I'm not trying to torture anyone. Iran lost. I really just want to make sure I'm creating some space for folks who may be hesitating or taking a second to collect their thoughts. We're not in a rush today, but obviously if anyone feels like they've gotten enough out of this and wants to move on with their lives, time is valuable. So don't hesitate. Nathan, thank you so much. That's a very nice comment. I'm going to let my son know you said that because he doesn't often feel that way. Well, I hope everyone feels, if you're new to the Hartford Foundation, that this was a start of a relationship and not the end. This is just the starting place. And I would encourage you to keep the conversations flowing. There's a number of foundation staff members I see who now have the Hartford Foundation backdrop behind them, and some have put the letters in their names. You can see there's a bunch of us on the screen who are here for you. We're here to answer your questions. And so please connect with us, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. And with that, I would say have a wonderful day. Try to get a little bit of vitamin D, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.